And welcome back, everybody, to an episode of New York State Sports here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. We're here with you once again, episode 52, and a rough opening game for the New York Giants. They were absolutely terrible yesterday, losing to the Vikings 28-6. Daniel Jones struggles. What does it all mean? Is it doom and gloom for the Giants already? Are they destined to get the number one pick in the draft? I wouldn't go that far, but still a lot of concern that we'll dive into. The Jets, Monday Night Football tonight in San Francisco. We'll look ahead to that with my predictions and thoughts on the game coming up. Yankees and Mets make their push to the postseason. Mets have their 9-game win streak snapped. They're still in a really good position. The Yankees take 2 or 3 and Wrigley is doing something they don't usually do. And a pitcher is unhappy. We'll dive into that. The Liberty sweep Vegas. Syracuse might have a Heisman contender at quarterback. Rutgers keeps winning. Army gets a memorable win. There's NASCAR this week. U.S. Open this week. So much going on. We only have an hour plus to talk about it, so let's get right into it. Coming up next here on New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. Join me at any time during lunchtime as we recap the day before in football in just a little bit. See you coming right up next. And thank you all once again for tuning in today here on a Monday at lunchtime. Love to have you aboard with us today. This is Keeler here with you for episode 52, the CC Sabathia episode. I promise we're trying not to change the times every week, but I kind of like the whole Monday at lunch feel. Get you the day after a memorable football Sunday. Well, memorable in other ways, at least not for the New York Giants, who I think may have had, I won't say the worst game out of all the teams in the NFL. Looking at you, Carolina Panthers, but it's right up there. Want to remind you, of course, you can follow us on X, IG, Facebook, TikTok at IE Sports Radio. If you missed any part of the show or you just want to hear me again, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, all that fun stuff, be sure to check that out. You go to any one of our show page websites, which is ours right here, iesportsradio.com/New York State Sports. At NY State Sports IE is where you can follow along on X, or you can tweet me. And of course, feel free to comment here on the YouTube channel throughout the next hour plus. Jen B is here. Jen, how are you? I would think the Giants had a worse day than the Browns yesterday, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But we can debate that for sure. But before we dive into the Giants' crazy, awful, very bad day against the Vikings, let's take a little bit of time out. Take a look at our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Philadelphia Wax Seals, and here from our own Larry B here at IE Sports Radio. We will hear from all of them, and we will come back and talk the Giants blowout loss on the other side.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm. single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back here into New York State Sports, IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all the sports are here with you. Thank you to all our great sponsors. Sure, hope you all enjoyed some Planet Jerky, watching some football yesterday. Maybe you tried to cancel it in a wedding or a graduation or something to watch some football, but if you got invited, sure you Seal the Deal Wax Seals and check out some of the awesome shows here on the network. We have awesome pages, different. I know we were all chiming in yesterday during the NFL slate, which is really cool. Terrence, thanks for hopping in as well. Ralph, I would say the Giants play as bad as a root canal, but hope you're doing okay here on the dentist chair. Let's talk Giants. And what could go wrong would go wrong for this team yesterday. Not just losing, but losing 28-6 to the Vikings. And when you look at this game on paper going in, and shout out to Dylan Corbett from Frozen Takes, we had a good segment we did this past week previewing the game. I think both of us thought that this game would be close. that both these teams are pretty even. Both had their flaws. Both were not going in on great situations. It was viewed by many experts as the black game of the week. And I used to do on my shows, I call it a flip the channel game of the week, where if you had to avoid one game, it would probably have been this one. If not, there were probably 2 or 3 others you could consider. But the Giants last year didn't score a touchdown on opening day against the Cowboys, didn't score a point. They scored 6, but still didn't find the end zone. And it's doom and gloom again for this team because you needed the season to start on a good note. It wasn't a must-win technically, but you needed something to go right and something to turn in the right direction. And what signs did you get yesterday that this team is really going forward and making those steps they need to make to be successful? I'm not even talking playoffs or the winning division. I'm talking just moving forward, taking strides. And yes, it's only one game. But the telling sign yesterday was when they get the fumble on the opening drive from Minnesota. They get the ball deep in Viking territory, and they settle for a field goal. That alone told you it was going to be that kind of game because you need a touchdown right out of that gate, get the momentum, get the energy, crowds into the game. Everybody's excited football to come back, and they lay that kind of an egg. That's an indictment on the coaching staff not getting this team ready to play. Because there's talent on this team. Not a lot of great talent, but there's talent on there. And you can blame the players, and a lot of the blame yesterday goes to Daniel Jones, who was absolutely terrible. In his return to the line, 22-46, a buck 86, 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times. And we talked about an offensive line that was better on paper, and Darius Slayton said it last week, that's the line pushed in 6 years. Didn't show it. Didn't show it one bit. And you had Jones make a terrible mistake where Van Ginkel just basically catches it in stride for a pick 6. You had the interception in the end zone later in the game by Harrison Smith. The decision making is off, and you can attribute that to he hasn't played in a while. He's still come back from the injury, but this is year 6. This is year 6. You got to be better than that. And he's playing against a guy in Sam Darnold who has gone through the fires of New York and come out on the other side and been better for it. I mean, he completed his first 10 passes yesterday. I mean, you clearly saw what having Justin Jefferson does to Sam Darnold, and you saw this Giants defense not being able to cover Justin Jefferson. And that's a problem. That's an absolute problem for this team. They can't cover downfield. They can't do anything in terms of making strides from an offensive standpoint. I mean, really the best player yesterday was Malik Neighbors, making his rookie debut, 5 catches, 66 yards. Had a couple of nice yards after the catch. But outside of him, Wan'Dale Robinson, 6 for 44, knocked for 8. Darius had 12 targets. I think 19 targets out of the 38 were 2 guys. And then Singletary had 5 out of the backfield, 4 catches for 15. You're not seeing anything from this group that makes you feel they can get things done. And it leads to another guy in the spotlight, Brian Daboll. First game as a play call. And he took over the duties from Mike Kafka. He was thinking it goes in the right direction, and there's just nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. They average like 4 yards a play. Like, you got to. I know this team is trying to get more downfield, trying to move the chains, trying to do different things. But unless they fix that, they're going nowhere. And you clearly saw this offense that still can't run the football while they're watching Saquon Barkley in Brazil run for 3 touchdowns. Like, that can't happen. As much as it's the right move to get rid of Saquon because you're trying to get long term, you're trying to recorrect the mistakes of the past. There's still one you could say mistake, and that's Daniel Jones. Now it's a little too early to pull the plug and go to Drew Lock and go to Tommy DeVito. I don't think they're there yet. But you got to talk about a team that really also didn't show any discipline. 9 penalties yesterday. So you get sacked 5 times, 9 penalties. Like, what exactly was this team looking to do? Like, that to me, you gear up all off season for this kind of game. And you allow Sam Darnold to throw for 208 yards and only get 1 sack with that pass rush. They allow Aaron Jones to rush for near 100 yards. Now, they contain Jefferson in most of the game outside of a big 44-yard catch. Jordan Addison got hurt during this game, but they allowed this Viking team to do whatever they wanted. And again, it's no disrespect to Minnesota, but the Giants, to me, I think are on par with that kind of team if they come in prepared. And they're not making stupid mistakes. They make stupid mistakes. Plain and simple. This is a much better team they showed in the field, and the fans took a lot of backlash yesterday. Dexter Lawrence talking about how this really didn't understand why fans were booing. Why do you think fans are booing? I mean, pay a lot of money to come to the game. They pay a lot of money in PSLs, and it's a season opener. They expect a better effort. I don't blame the fans for that. What I do blame the fans for, and it's something Jermaine Illuminor commented on X this morning, was the fans that went toward the player entrance gate after the game to basically heckle Daniel Jones. Like, what are we doing? I get you're upset. I get you're angry. I get that you're wondering what the future of this franchise is. You could tell you could see really why the Giants were looking for a quarterback at the top of the draft if they could get one. But that's uncalled for. Like your person going to player entrance, you jokingly ask Daniel Jones for $1 million. Come on. Like, that's ridiculous. That's uncalled for. The player's already had a rough game. He's already gone through the ringer enough. Like, Giants fans, be better than that. Be better than that. I think as fans in general, we should be better than that. So the Giants headed to week 2. They're at the Commanders. Commanders lost to Tampa yesterday on the road. Dane Daniels played, I think, an okay game. 2 touchdowns, both rushing. Didn't really get to see a lot through the air. Tampa's defense did a good job in that regard. This is a pivotal game for the Giants. And we said last week was a pivotal game for sure. At least the Viking game was. But if they lose this game, go to 0-2. Washington right now, early thing on ESPN bet, favored by 2.5. You go to 0-2, then you go to Cleveland, you go to host Dallas, you go to Seattle, and you host Cincinnati. This is a brutal stretch for the Giants. They cannot afford to start 0-2 and really expect the season to go any in a positive direction if they do want it. Now, Daniel Jones in his career has actually been pretty good against Washington. If there's a team that he plays well against, it's the Commanders. And if you dive into his numbers lifetime against Washington, he's 5-1-1 in 7 starts by the year with high. He's completed 69% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If you look at the touchdown stat in particular, his other games, the Eagles he's thrown 5, the Lions he's thrown 5, Tampa he's thrown 5. So he's throwing double the touchdowns of the second highest team outside of Washington. So yes, this is a new look defense, a new look thing from Dan Quinn. But Jones usually plays well in DC and plays well with Washington. It has to be a get right game for him, and they have to get Devin Singletary going. Maybe if you get the ball early with the lead, pound the rock. Do something different. Try to establish something with the offensive line. Get physical. I mean, you saw Baker Mayfield go for 4 touchdowns yesterday. And this is a winnable game. Yes, it's on the road, but it's a game they have to win. I just mentioned the schedule. You start 0-2, you're staring 1-4, 1-5 in the face. And you're going to expect this team to turn it around? Because I don't. And you can blame Daniel Jones all you want, and he's going to be probably the poster child if they do have a 3-14, 4-13 kind of year. But to me, it's on the front office because they chose to give Daniel Jones the money after the playoff year when they could have easily let him go and started a new plan, and they didn't do that. So basically, you're stuck. And you can talk about playing Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito all you want, but once you get rid of Daniel Jones and Benson, you can't go back. That's it. And that's why they're not going to pull the plug right away. Give him a chance to maybe brush off some of the things, move some stuff along, but that game was an absolute train wreck. And it really resets the expectations. Again, I think the team that had a worse game yesterday was Carolina. Because Carolina wasn't competitive at all. But the Giants were right there. And that's saying something. When you saw a lot of their teams be competitive, you saw a lot of week 1 weirdness, including New England beating Cincinnati. Like, you can see crazy stuff happening week 1. And to watch the Giants really essentially not show up, which is very disappointing. Let's dive into the Jets. Of course, they play tonight against the San Francisco 49ers out in San Francisco, 8:15 on ESPN. And again, we will dive into the Jets more. I'm going to try to record something tomorrow, diving into the Jet game, diving into everything that happens tonight, looking ahead to week 2, which is Jets will be in Tennessee next week. Titans had a 17-3 lead slip away against the Bears yesterday. Caleb Williams threw a touchdown. Bears still win, which is crazy enough. But obviously, Hassan Reddick's not in the line tonight. He hasn't shown up to camp yet. So it's going to be up to this Jet rotational pass rush. Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Pat McKinley, Javon Kinlaw. They're going to have to get after the quarterback tonight. Get after Brock Purdy, really make things difficult. And I'm interested to see what this wide receiver core looks like. Mike Williams is probably going to be limited, probably on a snap count. Does Alan Lazard finally break out with Aaron Rodgers back? Does Aaron Rodgers last more than 4 plays? As we mentioned last week, there's just so much unknown with this Jets team that you don't know how they're going to show up tonight. You don't know what their team is going to look like and really be confident in it. They've got the pieces for sure, and that's why unless they get the doors blown off them, I'm not going to overreact to a team if they lose on a last-second field goal or they lose with a competitive game in the fourth quarter. I think the key tonight is to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy, get him through this first game. Remember, he hasn't really completed the pass yet as a Jet. And that's saying something. Now, the big thing to keep an eye on, Adam Schefter tweeted out about a half hour ago, right before he went on the air. Aaron Rodgers actually has a streak on the line tonight. He has won his last 10 Monday Night Football games. His last loss was the Family Area game in Seattle 12 years ago. That's an amazing streak, and Aaron Rodgers has been on prime time enough. I feel like he's been more on Sunday nights than Monday nights usually. Obviously, the win last year in Buffalo counts for him, even though he only played 4 snaps. But going back to San Francisco, going back to a place he's familiar with, we saw the great interview he did with Alex Smith, kind of recapping the rehab and how tough it was for him. And this is one of the offensive line that they added to, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses. They've added different pieces into the mix where this offensive line should be better. His offensive line should give Rodgers a lot of time to throw. And the key, I think, is just settle him in. Use Brees Hall and some dump balls for it. Don't have to really push the meter. Use Tyler Conklin, who had a good year with Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and the rotating Jet quarterback at tight end last year. So if you look at this pick, I'm going to go with the 49ers tonight. I think it'll be like a 27-20 kind of game. I just think San Francisco, the question with them is Brandon Ayuk's going to be limited because he has barely been in training camp. Trent Williams just came back off a holdout. And Chris McCaffrey's been banged up. So what do the Niners look like? I think we're wondering what the Jet offense looks like. What does San Francisco look like, especially after the hangover of losing a Super Bowl in overtime and having lost, going deep in the postseason last year and they playing it short? Do they get up for this game? The Jets are going to be up for this game because they have a statement to make. They watched the whole AFC East win yesterday. Buffalo beat Arizona in a comeback. Miami beat Jacksonville in a comeback. And we mentioned New England winning yesterday. So with all 3 teams winning, it puts more pressure on the Jets to maintain pace. And I think that's going to be the big question to monitor as we go forward. But I just think San Francisco is going to make one more big play than the Jets. I think Rodgers has a decent game. I don't think he has an MVP caliber game, which I think is what he's going to have to win tonight, especially going on the road. I just don't see this team getting the victory just yet. I think this is a team where it's going to peak later in the year because they have to get used to each other. And I think if you won this game tonight, you could have looked back at maybe they should have played more in the preseason, at least a game to get used to each other, to get some feels. And I know they cover the joint processes and all that stuff, but you can see the rust play a factor. If San Francisco takes advantage of that rust early, it's not going to be an easy game. But give me your thoughts at NYC Sports Atmosphere 555. Chime in here in the chat. Let me know what you think. Who do you like tonight? Jets or 49ers? I'm trying to be tweeting my thoughts on the game throughout. And again, I'll throw the Twitter up at NYC Sports IU. If you want to chime in throughout, I'd be happy to hear from you, get some thoughts, all those different things. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk baseball. Yankees do something they haven't done in a while, but still win a series. And the Mets 9 straight wins and in the heat of the wild card race. And they're actually close to the first wild card now as well, as we head to the final 3 weeks of the baseball season. You're listening to New York State Sports and Ice Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We will be right back after this.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Moving over from the football field to the baseball diamond here on New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. And let us talk some Yankees to begin. And as I said, they did something this weekend in Chicago they don't get to do very often. When you go to Wrigley Field, you usually think you're going to see a lot of home runs. The wind's blowing out, day games galore. It's not quite Coors, but weird things can happen at Wrigley, as Adam could attest to when he watches Cubs and White Sox. The Cubs are in the thick of a wild card race. They're still somewhat in it, albeit they're got a little bit of a mountain to climb. So the Yankees go into Chicago, and they pitched very well. I think that really is the thing to take away from this weekend is their pitching looks back on track to a degree. You go to Friday, Luis Gil comes back off the IL with the back strain, and while the velocity was down, he only walked 2 guys, allows 1 hit, strikes out 7. They try Luke Weaver at closer. It works, at least temporarily, as they try to now find a way to get things done with a closer by committee because Clay Holmes can't get it done, as you saw in Texas last week. So they win Friday. Saturday, Clark Schmidt comes back. Schmidt goes 4 2/3 shutout ball. Nestor Cortez finishes it off with 4 1/3 no-hit innings. Yankees win that game 2-0. And then yesterday, Garrett Cole was pretty good. Gives up no earned runs over 6, walks the batter, strikes out 7. Another error by Gleyber Torres leads to 2 runs in the first. Pitching looked good. The offense, not so much. The offense doesn't hit a home run, but it's the first time, I believe it at least, I don't remember the exact year offhand, but it's the first time in a while the Yankees have won a series in which they haven't allowed a home run nor hit a home run. Now, from an offensive standpoint, that's a concern. Because if Aaron Judge isn't hitting home runs, this team isn't scoring runs. And Aaron Judge has gone, I believe, over the last week without getting a ball out of the yard. Now, the Yankees are fortunate that Baltimore has kind of been scuffling as well, to where they still, as of today, still lead by a half game in the American League East. So they didn't really lose any ground because the Orioles struggled with Tampa Bay this weekend at home. But the Yankees have to find a way to get something clicking offensively. Now, they're going to get John Birdie back tonight, which is going to be a big help because Birdie can play the infield. He can play a little bit of the outfield. He's kind of that spark plug that they got from the Marlins in the offseason and played well the first month before going out with that calf strain. So they get some reinforcements there, which is going to be a big boost for them going forward. But they need something. They need a boost. And I'm not going to talk about Jason Dominguez again because I did that all last week. Brian Cashman addressed it this weekend in Chicago, saying, they like Alex Verdugo right now. And nothing's going to change unless Verdugo were to get hurt or something like that, or he starts to really scuffle. They're not going to make that move. And the concern is this: if Jason Dominguez does play in the playoffs, is he going to have something to a chance to really get in the swing of things and getting into it? Now, as you mentioned, Nestor Cortez was good. Yes, it was good Saturday, but he was not happy with essentially being demoted into the bullpen. Aaron Boone said he liked that he was unhappy, and he understands why he's unhappy because Cortez is a competitor. And you look at this Yankee team. I think if you're Nestor Cortez, he's pitched better of late. But when you look at this rotation in a nutshell, when you've got Cole, who's going to be a mainstay, Stroman's going to be a mainstay, Rodon, who pitches tonight, is going to be a mainstay. That's 3 guys right there. You got Heel, you got Schmidt, you got Cortez. Heel, the question is going to be, which one do they believe? Do they believe Cortez is better out of the bullpen in the postseason? As that lefty that can kind of change things up. You bring a fireball like Heel in off the mound, then you go to Cortez, who's kind of a crafty left-hander. You could do that. So the Yankees trying to at least manage Heel and Schmidt for right now as they return. That's Cortez's role. He's a guy that it can be a long relief pitcher. Remember, Luke Weaver was supposed to be that 6th starter in the spring training, and Luke Weaver turned to an 8th inning guy. And you clearly saw Will Warren isn't ready for the major leagues. He did not look that good in his trial run with Heel on the IL. So they have to make this move because there's not many more pitching reinforcements they could make. Brian Cashman didn't really address that at the trade deadline. That's where they are. And I don't blame Nestor for being unhappy. But at the same time, you have to do whatever your team needs you to do to win a World Series. And if Cortez can be that bridge pitcher, now he finished the game the other day, which is huge, saved the bullpen. And the Yankees are going to need that. But the question is going to be how their pitching lines up. And at least it's better now to the point where it's not a question mark. It's just a question mark of where things line up. But really the bigger concern is offensively. Because they're not scoring runs enough to where you feel comfortable in a postseason series that this team can put up a big number and win a series because of their offense. Now, they have a big homestand this week, and it starts tonight against the Kansas City Royals. Royals are coming in red hot. They just swept the Twins. They're 2.5 back in the Central. Brady Singer for the Royals pitches tonight against Carlos Rodon. Tomorrow, Seth Lugo goes for his 16th win for Met against Marcus Stroman. And then Wednesday, Cole Reagan's a really good left-hander against Luis Heel. And this could be, if the season ends today, the Royals would be that second wild card. So there's a chance that the Yankees could host the Royals in a best-of-3 in a few weeks in the wild card round. The Royals are a pesky team. I know the Yankees took 3 out of 4 from them earlier this year. And does Kansas City kind of come into New York with this big of a series and lay down? I don't think so. Bobby Witt is having a fantastic season. Sal Perez is really good. You look at the rotation. KC has the three guys they want in this series. This would be basically who you would see in a best of three in Singer, Lugo, and Reagan. And their bullpens was better. Look what the Royals did the deadline. Lucas Urqueg's been pretty good as the back end. Paul DeJong has had some success. Kansas City's made some really good deals. I mean, this is a team that really invested itself. They had a rough stretch recently, but to play as well as they did against Minnesota in a crucial series for them over the weekend and to get closer to the Guardians, I mean, this is big. And then the Yankees host Boston for 4. And Boston's playoff life is on support right now. 4 back in the wild card. They need a big week. So Yankees be playing some playoff baseball over this next week. They usually do respond when they play against winning teams. I would say the Cubs classify as that because the Cubs are pushing for a playoff spot. The bigger concern is what the Yankees do against non-playoff teams, and that could cost them the division more so than any of these series do. But you have to trust this Yankee offense is going to show up, especially at home. But can they do that consistently? We're going to see. But that's what's telling over the last 20 games or so. On the Mets side, been a fun week in New York for sure for the Mets. They did have their 9-game win streak snapped yesterday. They lose 3-1 to the Cincinnati Reds. Santiago Espinal with a 2-run double in the top of the ninth against Phil Maton. Mets early in the game had a Brandon Nimmo potential home run, just missed by inches as the ball went over the foul pole. But this is a team that's been fun. I mean, Mark Vientos hits another walk-off home run, his second of the season, and I've talked about Mark Vientos on the show all year long, and you just wonder what the Mets would have did or how they would have did if Vientos was a third baseman all year. If they didn't experiment with Brett Baty earlier in the year, it did not work. They basically wait till late May, early June to make the pull for Vientos. And he has been one of the better third basemen in baseball this year. He has been consistent offensively. He hasn't been a thorn in the Mets side defensively. We talk about Lindor, and rightfully so. He's been playing him MVP candidate. Vientos is right up there for one of the more consistent offensive players this team has had. And to hit that walk-off the other night on Friday, which was huge for this team, and the way that they were able to recover. Luis Severino was good yesterday. You saw the energy he had getting that pick off with first and third, no out in the fifth. That top three with Manaea, Peterson, and Severino had been really good. They're going to need them over the last 3 weeks, especially in that series in Atlanta, which is going to determine so much. But maybe not as much as it's going to determine it a lot, but maybe not as much as you think. When you look at where the Mets are right now in the playoffs, as you look at the updated standings in the National League, they're tied with the Braves. Braves won an 11-inning game against the Blue Jays yesterday to get back in the tie. The Diamondbacks are only a game ahead in the loss column, and the Padres are only a game ahead in the loss column. Arizona's played 134 games. Pods have played 135. Mets only played 133. So they have 2 games in hand, which is going to be big. And tonight, Padres are off. Diamondbacks are off. Mets can gain a game back tonight. They are in Toronto. The 3 against a struggling Blue Jays team. Tyler McGill is going to get the start tonight, but it's supposed to be Paul Blackburn returning from the IL. We don't have an update on why that is the case, but we will see if McGill and we'll see if Carlos Mendoza gives an update in the next couple of hours. Tuesday night, David Peterson will go for his 10th win, and then Wednesday afternoon, that's a 3 o'clock first pitch, will be Sean Manaea. So you got Peterson and Manaea on the mound in this series. Got to take 2 out of 3. Keep the momentum going, win these series, because after Toronto, they get an off day, and then they go to Philadelphia to play the Phillies. And you look at the Phillies right now, everyone's saying the Mets should be worried they're playing the Phillies 7 times. Phillies right now have a 7-game lead in the division. So this series against the Phillies might mean something, but what's that 4-gamer in Citi Field really going to mean outside of maybe clinching the division for the Philadelphia Phillies? I'm not so sure really if that's going to be a big deal for this group, and this Mets team's responded. I mean, think about where we were 2 weeks ago. When Edwin Diaz gives up the home run to Corbin Carroll, Mets lose in Arizona, and it looked like the sky was falling. And the resiliency of this group is just what's fun about it. They got like energy. There was a buzz at Citi Field. A team that had expectations, then didn't have expectations, now has expectations again. They have a chance not only maybe to get the 3rd wild card, but could get the 1st or 2nd wild card. So I see the Padres and Diamondbacks play each other the last week of the year. So there's still a lot on the table for this Met team. They got about 19 games to go. Just keep winning series. If they keep winning series, and they're going to be in a good position to make the playoffs. They've got the top three. Maton was off yesterday, but Maton and Diaz have been a good 8-9 combo if you want to go that direction. We'll see if Senga makes his way back to the bullpen. We'll see if Christian Scott makes his way back to the bullpen. But my family went to the Met Red game the other day, and the buzz was just there. It's a lot different than what it was early in the season. It just is. And Mendoza and that front office deserve a lot of credit for that. So we'll take one more break. We'll come back. We'll do a little grab bag here. We'll talk Liberty. We'll talk college football in the area. All three teams get some really good wins. And we'll talk U.S. Open. And we'll talk some NASCAR coming to New York this week. Playoffs going on in auto racing. We'll hear more about it in the Extra Mile on Thursday, but I'll give you a little brief preview of maybe what to expect and what's going on in the world of auto racing. A lot coming up on the final segment of New York State of Sports coming up in just a minute.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
As we wrap up episode 52, the CC Sabathia episode here on New York State of Sports on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all of the sports. We're here with you for the final 15 minutes. We do a little grab bag here of some fun topics. And let's start with the Liberty, who, again, we mentioned that we're going to be talking a lot of football. We're going to be talking a lot of baseball, hopefully with two teams in the playoffs in New York. But the Liberty should get a good amount of attention if you haven't watched them enough. And it showed yesterday. They played a 4 o'clock game. And I know Asia Wilson didn't play for the Aces, but the Liberty complete the season sweep of a team that beat them in the championship last year. I mean, that's a big accomplishment for this group. 5 games left in the regular season. They're 29-6. They're playing in front of Stephen Clay yesterday. And Brianna Stewart has another big game. 8 of 14 shooting, 21 points, 11 boards. Even with a rough night where Sabrina Nescu only makes 1 3 and 9 attempts, they find a way to out-rebound Vegas 39-27. So they were big on the glass. And to win a game where they didn't shoot the ball well from three-point range, just 5 threes total out of 24 for a team that normally is a good three-point shooting team, to find a way to win on the road. And Nescu was clutch down the stretch. She was making every big basket this team needed them to make. Like, that's why this team is special. Now, the danger right now for the Liberty is maybe playing Vegas in the second round. Right now, the Aces are the 4 seed in the West, which would line up a Liberty Vegas second round matchup, which would be really interesting for this group, especially since that was, again, the title game a year ago. But Vegas isn't even locked into the 4. They're only a game ahead of Seattle, who Liberty played earlier this past week on Thursday. Got a 77-70 win. Benijah Lady Hamilton came back in a big way. Led the team with 18 points, 6 rebounds. And Eskew at 17. John Cole Jones 15-8, another good game. It's hard to see that the run this team is on, and with Danny Marndel's on the group, she should win Coach of the Year, because it's tough to see in any sport a team be as consistent as this Liberty team. They're clearly on a mission. It's clearly a super team. They've got 5 games left. 2 of them are with Dallas, who's got 9 wins. They play them twice this week on the road, tomorrow night and on Thursday. They get a matchup with the Lynx Sunday. I'm sure they want to get revenge on the Lynx for winning that Commissioner's Cup in a game that was in Long Island and not at Barclays. But they're going to determine partially who they play for the 8th seed at the end of the year. The last 2 games are at Washington next Tuesday and at home against Atlanta next Thursday. Right now, if the season ended today, Liberty would play the Sky in the first round. The Sky announced the other day that Angel Reese is out for the remainder of the season, which is a big blow to them. Atlanta's a game back. Washington's 2 back with 5 to play. I think New York will beat whoever they play in the first round, largely because of the Reese injury. I think that's too much to overcome, and Reese was a double-double machine for that team. But your Liberty, you keep an eye on some matchups and how they handle these next 5 games. They got a 3-game lead on the Lynx with 5 to go. If they can clinch early, do they use the last 2 games, kind of rest some starters? Maybe Lainey Hamilton just came back from injury. Maybe they rest Enescu, who's missed a couple games. Maybe Brianna Stewart gets a breather. I mean, because the goal for this Liberty team is to win a championship. And Marcus, how are you, my man? Like, they have to do everything they can for the long haul to find out what this team is going to do in the fall and winning a championship. That's what this team has to focus on. And we'll see if they do in the end. But a heck of a game yesterday. Wouldn't even blame if they lost. Vegas had a chip on their shoulder to kind of get a win, but without their best player, it's tough to really see them going on the road and getting that victory. Moving over to college football, and right now what's been the fun thing about this season here locally, and there's not a lot of local teams here in the area, at least from a national standpoint, but Kyle McCord has been everything as advertised for Syracuse. They take on a Georgia Tech team that beat Florida State week 1 in the top 25, and they get a 31-28 win in a game that really they were dominant up until the fourth quarter. Kyle McCord, 32 of 46, 381, 4 touchdowns. He's thrown 8 touchdowns in the first 2 games. And I was saying in the open, the Syracuse have a Heisman contender, but you look at the Orange going forward, they only have 2 ranked teams left on their schedule. At Boston College and home to Miami, both in November. They do have to go to NC State, but NC State got the doors blown off them by Tennessee over the weekend in Charlotte. Fran Brown's got this team playing really well, particularly on offense. When you look at it from a defensive standpoint, they didn't have Marlowe Wax. They held Georgia Tech to 112 yards rushing. Syracuse held the ball for 36 minutes in a game where they really didn't do much with the ground. The Quint Allen had 83 yards rushing, but this has been more of an aerial team. You look at guys like Trevor Pena, 2 touchdowns. Oronde Gadsden, who's one of the better transfer wide receivers in the country, he gets 2 touchdowns. Right now, you got to love what the Orange are doing, and they can be setting themselves up for a very favorable schedule the next few weeks. They get Stanford next Friday at home, Holy Cross at home. They go to UNLV, who's won their first 2. But they should realistically be 5-0 going to that NC State game. Like, we said the Georgia Tech game going into the year is going to be a swing game for this group. And they passed that first test. And they passed it with flying colors. And you look at the ACC with Florida State being down, Clemson bounced back into App State, but the Georgia game is hard to really go away from. Miami, I think, has been the best team in the ACC so far. But you can't ignore what Syracuse has done. You can't ignore in the ACC where there's a lot of competitiveness that this team, if they keep this pace up, and it's hard to do in college. You saw what Notre Dame laying an egg the other day. But McCord is clearly showing that he had talent at Ohio State, and now getting a chance to show what he can do, you gotta love it. So props to the Orange and props to Fran Brown. Rutgers, no shock there for the Scarlet Knights. I mean, they took on Akron. That's a game they should win. And not only did they win, they blew them out. And another second half where Akron just didn't really show up like the Ohio State game. But Rutgers gets the win, 49-17, your final. Kamenon guy, really good run the football, career high, 208 yards, 3 touchdowns. Calic Manis threw for 3 touchdowns as well. This is a Rutgers team that, again, hasn't been tested yet. They're 2-0. They get Virginia Tech next week coming off the bye. So they do. Remember, Syracuse, Rutgers, and Army are all off this week. So next week's show won't have as much college football with it because we don't have a lot of teams playing. But Rutgers is passing both tests so far. Calic Manis is going for 3 touchdowns each of the first 2 games. But the Virginia Tech game will be their first huge test for this group. And last, we got to talk about Army. And this is an Army team that going into a new conference, they go on the road to take on Florida Atlantic in Boca Raton. And they go out there and not only win the game, but they dominate the game. Absolutely put the pedal to the metal on the ground. And that's what this Army team does better than anybody in the country, I think, is run the football. They win 24-7. They get a fake field goal for a touchdown late in the game. Bryson Daly, the quarterback, runs for 117 yards. But Army as a team runs the ball 58 times for 405 yards. And when you play against the service academies, it's always tough to prepare. But Army's defense was really good in this game as well. And they didn't have a sack. You think about holding Florida Atlantic at 7 points and not getting a sack. Like, that speaks to really the good job they did in coverage. And Jeff Monken had this team ready to play. They need to go on the road, big game, big environment. Maybe not big in terms of like game day type atmosphere, but to go on the road and win, and now they get home in a couple weeks to play Rice. I mean, all 3 teams made statements. I think Syracuse made the biggest statement, but Army was a close second. And to finally be in a conference, chance to do something, and to dominate from start to finish the way they did. They got out ahead early and didn't look back. Props to the Black Knights for getting the job done. So they go to 2-0 on the campaign. And again, they will play Rice next week. Rutgers will play Virginia Tech next in a couple weeks, and Syracuse will play Stanford a week from Friday. So that should be a lot of fun there. NYCFC had the week off. Red Bulls were home to Sporting KC, and they had to get a little bit of late heroics to get that tie. Julian Hall in the 86th minute, 16 years old, and yet he's finding ways to deliver when the Red Bulls need him to get a very important tie. And we said a couple weeks ago, this team loves to get ties, but they're getting points. And right now in the standings, they're a 4-point lead on NYCFC for the 4th spot. They're 6 points behind Columbus, which 3 points in soccer for a win. Essentially, it's 2-game deficit as the season heads into its final month. NYCFC heads to DC United this week. The Red Bulls head to Chicago to take on the Fire. So both these teams will get some road tests next week. Let's also, for the 2 minutes left, let's talk NASCAR. We saw the commercial for the Extra Mile, which is on every Thursday here on the network, and NASCAR heads up to New York this week to the road course at Watkins Glen. Now, next year, this race will go to August back in its normal spot instead of September, but it's now part of the playoffs this year. Now, there's 12. Right now, the playoffs are down to 12. Joey Logano got a win in Atlanta yesterday. He's the number 1 seed. William Byron, who won this race last year, he's right now in the top 5 in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin's still alive. Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez, and Ty Gibbs round out your top 12. So to get a playoff kind of atmosphere, road courses always lead to some crazy drama, which you got to love. And to have this race part of the postseason goes a long way. So make sure you tune in to the Extra Mile on Thursdays. I'm going to get you set for that race, which is on Sunday the 15th. So much going on in that regard. So props to that team over at the Extra Mile. We'll see if Byron can get a repeat. We'll see if Logano keeps it going. But always good to get another national sport. And of course, the U.S. Open was this weekend. Wrapped up, you had an American in both the men's and women's final. Heck of a semifinal, by the way, between Taylor Fritz and Frances Tiafoe. Fritz is able to come back and win in 5 sets. Tiafoe just ran out of gas. But Fritz ends up losing to Jannik Sinner, the number 1 player in the world in straight sets. And props to Sinner, who had to deal with a lot of the controversy going in about getting cleared for the U.S. Open despite being under investigation for doping. Could have gone any which way for him, and Sinner was dominant in both the semifinal and the final. Fritz didn't play bad, just Sinner was better. But Fritz can go a long way. I remember when I was at the U.S. Open a few years ago, and I asked the question to a tennis insider on a stage, and I said, "Who's the next American that makes the Grand Slam final?" And the American's the best chance. I was a John Isner fan at the time, and that insider told me Taylor Fritz. So to even get back to the final, something that hadn't been done since Roddick lost to Federer at Wimbledon. It was the first time an American American male had been in the final since Agassi, when he beat Robbie Ginepri in 05 and lost to Federer. So definitely a good stride for the men's game, at least in America, to get somebody in the final. And the women's side, Jessie Pegula, she makes the women's final. She loses to Arina Sabalenka, who's been the best player on hard courts this year. Pegula, though, had an excellent summer. They both played in Cincinnati in the final, which was the warm-up tournament. So heck of a run by both those players. Emma Navarro, who's from New York, made a run deep in the tournament to the semis. She lost to Sabalenka. But finally, at least you had the American flair in the U.S. Open, which is something that gets the casual fan in, especially when you consider, when you look at the tennis game now, Federer's out, Nadal's going to be close to retirement, Murray's gone, Djokovic, who knows how much he has left, Serena's gone, Venus is gone. There's really no, you get that drama from the U.S. Open if you can get an American that makes a deep run. And the fact that a lot of them went deep this week really brought the tennis, which it has its own international stage, but to get it here locally in New York, New Jersey, heck of a run. So as you wrap up the show this week, of course, Wednesday is always a sad day here locally. The 23rd and the 23 years ago on Wednesday, of course, was the tragedy of September 11th for New York, World Trade Center, the Pentagon, Pennsylvania as well. Our thoughts and prayers, of course, still with all those family members that lost somebody who are still dealing with the after effects from 23 years ago. It's a day that never gets forgotten, and it's just always a reminder too. At least what happened, and there's always think back to that 2001 September, October, from a sports standpoint, and how sports can bring a area back. When you think about what Mike Piazza did 10 days later, that ace-hitting home run against the Braves in the first baseball game in New York since 9/11. You think about the run that the Yankees went on to get to the World Series, ended up losing in Game 7 in Arizona, but some of the memories from those crazy game-time home runs and walk-off wins against the Diamondbacks, really, people were all just happy to get away for a little bit and happy to kind of bring sports being that way to escape for a little bit. Like, you're going through some tough times at home or going through tough times at work, and tonight you're going to sit down and watch a Jet game and try to get away for a little bit. And that's what sports can provide, but still this country, and particularly this region in particular, not September 11th, Patriots Day now is really a tough moment for people to look back on. So, again, if you're out there, our thoughts and prayers are with you here at IE Sports Radio. Just always the day, just never to forget it. Never forget. I was 9 years old then, so it's tough for me to ever forget that moment of what it was like in this country. So to wrap up this episode, again, look out for a special post-game sometime tomorrow about the Jets-49ers matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen with that. I'm not as high on the Jets tonight, but I think they can make this game close because they're going to compete with the 49ers and find a way to at least make this a game into the fourth quarter, which is, I think, what should all set. But the Giants, so much dysfunction, so much they have to fix. I don't know if it's all fixable. And it's only one game. You don't want to overreact, especially the first Monday of the football season. But to lose the way they did to Minnesota gives you pause. And they do a must-win game Sunday against Washington. Because if they start 0-2, momentum's going to keep going further and further down and not for the better. The Yankees making a push for the playoffs. They host Kansas City this week. Mets are in Toronto and then in Philadelphia over the weekend. Can they stay at least tied or even take one of those 3 wild card spots with 2 weeks left in the season? We'll dive into that next week. We'll talk about the NASCAR race at the Glen. The Liberty with 5 games left. Can they clinch that number 1 seed? They're 3 games up. But I'm not really worried about the Dallas matchup this week. Keep an eye on that game Sunday in Barclays against Minnesota. That's the game I know the Liberty won. That's really the last game on the regular season revenge tour because they didn't get the repeat as Commissioner's Cup champions. Can they find a way to win that game in particular and then get set for the WNBA playoffs? Both soccer teams in the area are on the road. Shout out to Gotham also getting a win late in the NWSL yesterday. Find a way to get victories. So much still going on here in the area. Again, thanks to all those for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed the Monday lunchtime show. I'm Rick Stewart saying a great rest of your week. Enjoy the game tonight. I'll see you back here next time on New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all about it.